Well, folks, last year I was able to flip my flapjacks a little bit and made $11,500 plus on Nvidia stock in the public account. And then through my other portfolios as well, ended up making multi-five figures on Nvidia stock last year. But Nvidia was really just the appetizer. We're about to get into the main course. I'm going to make multi-six figures on AMD stock, and I believe it's going to be a tremendous investment over this next few years. I put, we can call it, over $250,000 into the stock in the public account alone, and I've bought a lot of shares in my other portfolios as well. In this video here today, we're going to go through some huge changes that have just occurred in regards to AMD. Massive changes that, let's just say, Wall Street never saw coming. Second thing we'll get into after we get through those massive changes is my 1 year, my 2 year, 3 year, and 4 year price targets for AMD stock. So where do I think this stock's going to be in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And I'm not just throwing things out there and saying, oh, I think it's going to be. No. I'm going to take you through the numbers. What I'm expecting revenue to go to, net income to go to, net margins to go to. We're going to go in depth in this one. So for all those folks out there, I love the in-depth content. You're going to love this one here today. Okay. Third thing we'll get into in this video is actually not even related to AMD, but that's around Celsius earnings, which came out this morning. That's a stock I've been buying very heavily the last few months. And, I want to share some thoughts in regards to that one and kind of where I see that stock price going. But I'll save that to the end of the video, since I know there's a lot of people that, just really want to hear my AMD thoughts on this one here today. By the way, appreciate y'all joining me. I hope you guys appreciate me keeping you guys in tune with everything going on here on all these different stocks. I mean, it's just day after day. Like today alone, I think I had 3 or 4 companies of mine report earnings. It is just company after company. It's busy times, folks. All I need from you, one thing only. Smash that like button on this video. I appreciate you. That's all I need from you, okay? If you want to be subscribed to the channel, you can certainly subscribe. We're now 850,000 plus subscribers deep. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. If you're ready to scale up your wealth and learn how to do it, you can apply to join my private stock group, private wealth group. Pin comment down there. Access to all my premium course curriculums, access to my private Discord chat, see all the moves I'm making, all that good stuff, okay? Alrighty, very important we start here with AMD. Before we go any further, you've got to understand this. AMD has 3 main segments of their business that they kind of group things into here, okay? They have their data center business. Now, that can compete against Intel in some ways. In other ways, it's going to be competing much more heavily against NVIDIA over the coming years, okay? And when you think about data center business, think about all these massive companies that are spending all this money, from Oracle to Meta to Google to Amazon. Go through the whole list of them. Think of them as data center, okay? Then you have the client and gaming business, which think of it more as PC related, right? And you have their embedded business as well, which a lot of that's from the Xilinx acquisition they did many years ago. And embedded business can be in many other products out there, right? And it's also important to understand that they did a acquisition here recently, a fairly big acquisition of a company named ZT Systems, which is basically going to help position the company in a much better competitive, let's call it, framework to go against NVIDIA over this next 10 to 20 years. Now, did you hear what I just said there? 10 to 20 years. People think this AI battle is like just going on right now. And no. There's going to be an AI battle that's going to happen over the next decade or two. This isn't just some companies are going to spend some money on chips and then we're good. No. The tech's going to keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, okay? And there's probably going to be some day when, it's very commonplace for many of these companies to be spending hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure as their businesses continue to grow. So do keep that in mind, okay? Now, revenue. This was pretty dang impressive. They did 36% year-over-year growth in revenue, which beat pretty much just about every analyst's expectations out there, okay? Now, keep in mind, this rapid growth of 36% year over year, how many companies are even doing a number like that? Like, think about how many stocks are in the stock market. How many are reporting revenue growth of 36%? I can't really think of almost anybody. Like, you look at all the big tech companies, none of them are even remotely close to that number other than NVIDIA. And that's it, right? That's an incredible number given the environment we're in. And keep in mind, this is all before MI350. Like, MI350 is really going to get ramping this summer, right? So we're experiencing this rapid growth rate already, and we're not even to like the really exciting part yet. The really exciting part starts with MI350, but really that's just an appetizer to get us to MI400 next year. And then you want to talk about some numbers we're going to be revenue growth in both data center, client, and gaming segments. Gross margins here on a GAAP basis up to 50% from 47% in the same quarter last year. Non-GAAP gross margins went to 54% from 52%. So we not only have revenues exploding to the upside, we have margins moving up as well. Increase in gross margin primarily driven by higher data center segment revenue and richer risen processor mix. Keep in mind in regards to these margins, I think you're going to see a major move up again when we start really hitting those MI350 numbers. So these numbers you're seeing in front of you right now, I think it's about to go a whole lot higher if we're to fast forward a year from now, okay? Now, operating income here, banger. Look at what happened at GAAP operating income. I mean, it went from basically flat at this time last year to around $800 million positive. And then on a non-GAAP basis, $1.8 billion. $1.8 billion in non-GAAP operating income in this quarter versus $1.1 billion in the same quarter last year. Incredible increase in operating income driven by higher revenue in data center segment and client and gaming segment. Diluted EPS on a GAAP basis came in at 44 cents versus 7 cents was expected in the same quarter last year. Non-GAAP 62 cents was what they did at this time last year. They just did 96 cents on non-GAAP basis. Phenomenal. Data center, this is where all the focus really is because this is the big growth engine for NVIDIA. Like NVIDIA's other segments of their business are going to be growing over the next number of years, right? But this is the big dog. Data center is the big dog. This is the one that's going to grow into likely a business that's doing tens of billions of dollars, multi-tens of billions of dollars year in and year out, right? Revenue went to $3.7 billion in data center from $2.3 billion. That's 57% growth on a year-over-year basis, folks. Once again, we haven't even gotten to MI350 yet. And MI400's next year. This is not even the fun times yet. And we're already got 57% growth in data center, right? Next gen MI350 series Instinct GPUs are on track to begin accelerated production by mid-2025, which is basically in the next couple months here, right? Absolutely phenomenal. Operating income went to $932 million for the data center segment from $541 million. Operating margins went to 25% from 23%, right? Guys, imagine how big this business is about to get when those MI350 start hitting and then we get MI400 next year. Like, geez. Woo-wee. Client and gaming segment. Now, this is really interesting because they ended up combining these two segments together now, right? So what's interesting here is gaming's still a drag on the business, right? Gaming was $900 million in this quarter last year. They did $600 million in this quarter, right? Keep in mind the gaming segment, I've always expected in the back half of this year to flip back to growth again. Okay, that business has been in decline for many quarters in a row now at this point in time. Back half of this year, we start having some insanely easy comps, and I'm a full belief they'll be able to start growing the gaming segment again starting in the back half of this year. Okay. Client business grew from $1.4 billion to $2.3 billion. Revenue up 28% for the segment overall. Operating income went to $496 mil versus $237 mil. Once again, imagine when that gaming business flips to growth, in my opinion, in the back half of this year. What's going to happen with operating margins? What's going to happen with operating income? Revenue? It's going to get a lot more exciting in regards to that, right? Now, the embedded segment. This is where, hey, listen. I appreciate you guys, right? And I hope you guys appreciate me because the data I'm about to take you through, no one's taking you through the numbers I'm about to take you through here right now, okay? This is like, there's only one place you're going to get this sort of data, okay? Embedded segment. So you look at this number, you see, okay, it's down 3%. And you think like, is that bad? Is that a bad number? Is that a good number? Like what's going on here, right? Listen, the embedded segment is about to turn positive. It's about to turn positive. And here's why we know this. If we look here, 2 quarters ago, the company's embedded segment was down 25% on a year-over-year basis. Last quarter, it was down 13%. This quarter, it's down 3%. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, okay, there's clearly a trend that is going in the right direction in regards to embedded, and this business is likely going to flip over to positive revenue again from some insanely negative numbers, right? Operating income, $342 million in the same quarter last year, $328 million. So the embedded segment is about to get back to growth, which is, in my opinion, very, very exciting, right? So what are we going to have here? We're going to have data center business blowing up, right? Like just to ridiculous numbers as MI350 hits later on, as this year ticks on, and then MI400 next year. We're going to have the client in gaming segment business flip into very nice growth rates as gaming gets back to growth, in my opinion, in the back half of this year. And then embedded looks like it's about to turn. What are you going to say? Like, you got nothing left, right? Phenomenal. Now, I'm going to take you a little deeper in regards to some numbers and some data here, okay? So the company puts out guidance. $7.4 billion. Now, from my understanding, in that they're doing a plus or minus $300 million number, right? So they're basically saying we're going to do anywhere between $7.1 billion and $7.7 billion for the next quarter. $7.4 billion is the midpoint. From my understanding, analysts were at about $7.2 billion, so, the midpoint's well ahead of analysts, so which is great news, okay? But here's the deal. They're basically going to do $7.7 billion, okay? Why do I know that? Well, one, Lisa Su knows the game of Wall Street. She wants to come in and be at those high ranges, right? She's not new to this game. She's been leading this company now for 10 years, about a decade now at this point in time. She understands the game of Wall Street. You put out your numbers, you come in and beat your numbers because no one wants to be disappointed, right, with bad numbers. So they're going to come to that high range. And also, if you look at last quarter, what did they guide for last quarter? AMD and Lisa Su in the team, they guided for $7.1 billion of revenue, plus or minus $300 million. So basically, they guided for $6.8 billion to $6.4 billion. What revenue number did they just come through with? $7.4 billion, right? At the very top of their range. So I would say there's an insanely high probability they're going to do $7.7 billion of revenue in this upcoming quarter here, right? Very good overall, right? And this is why you got to kind of see these trends here. You got to be able to look back at the past data and then be able to decipher and say, okay, where's the trends going here? Are things getting better for these different business segments? Are they getting worse? How does this company usually guide? What does it mean, right? You got to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and then you begin to understand, okay, this is actually very, very impressive, okay? Now, additionally, in regards to the income statement, wow, a grade A income statement. I'll share with you in just a moment here why it wasn't an A+. But look at this. They went from $5.4 billion to $7.4 billion in revenue, right? Their gross profit went to $3.7 billion from $2.5 billion, right? $3.7 billion versus $2.5 billion. Gross margin, 300 basis points up on a year-over-year basis. They increased their R&D spend, also increased marketing, general, administrative quite a bit here. Operating income went to $800 million plus from basically flat at the same time last year, right? Now, keep in mind, net income, $709 million, diluted EPS of 44 cents. Listen, the only reason I didn't give this company an A+ is because their net margin is still relatively low. It's only about a 10% net margin. If you look at what's coming in through the front door versus what's left at the end of the pie, about 10% roughly, right? Listen, they have so much room to grow that number over this next few years. It's ridiculous. Like the net margins you're looking at in this particular quarter are not even in the same stratosphere as where those net margins are going over this next several years here, okay? We're still very early days. So that's the only thing I could really pick apart. Other than that, I mean, everything's absolutely phenomenal. And so it's a grade A income statement overall for AMD. Now, additionally, you look at the balance sheet. Look at the balance sheet. $6 billion plus of cash and cash equivalents. Short-term investments of $1.2 billion. So we're looking at about $7.3 billion-ish of cash and cash equivalents and short-term investments. And phenomenal number, right? Phenomenal number. Like they could wipe out all their long-term debt tomorrow and still have a bunch of money left around because their long-term debt's $3.2 billion, right? Now, look at stockholder equity, now up to $57.8 billion on this company overall, which is a very impressive number given the market capitalization of AMD. Keep in mind, AMD's market cap is around $160 billion or so. So to have stockholder equity of $57.8 billion is actually a really impressive number, like really impressive number. Very impressive, okay? So before we get into where I think the stock's going over the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years, and I take you through my bull case, base case, and bear case here in regards to AMD, let me just say I loved earnings. And the stock is, at $100 a share, buy everything in sight. Buy everything in sight. There's no question. Look at the income statement, look at the balance sheet, look at all the trends in the business model, and just understand we're about to have the really exciting phase for AMD. We're not even in it yet. MI350 coming, that's a really exciting And then MI 400 is a whole nother level of exciting things that are about to happen in this business. You're looking at an embedded segment that's about to turn back to growth, a gaming segment that's about to turn back to growth. Like, my gosh, like this story is about to get, you know, a whole lot more exciting than it's already, you know, been. And so I love the earnings, man. Buy everything in sight in regards to this one. Okay, so let's start going through this. I'm going to take you through, let me start. You know what? Let me go reverse. Let me show you my bear case first. Then we'll go base case, and then I'll show you my bull case. Okay, we'll go reverse style on this one. Alrighty, you want to see my bear case for AMD? Here it is. My bear case for AMD is that they grow only 15% revenue per year, 2026 to 2029. Let me be clear. Horrible. If they only grew revenue 15% a year on average, with MI 350 coming and then MI 400, and as they expand beyond that, with all the spend that's coming in the next few years in regards to the AI space, oh my gosh, like this would be awful. Disaster. Like Lisa Su, she might fire herself. Like literally, Lisa Su might fire herself if they only did 15% revenue growth on average per year, 2026 to 2029. Okay, super unrealistic, but you know, you got to be really bearish. Net income growth at 25% there, right? So here's the deal. You know, with that sort of growth rate, people might only value the company at a PE ratio of 20 to 30, which puts the stock in 2026 at somewhere between 115 and 173. 2027, 144 to 216. 2028, 180 to 270. Oh my gosh, AMD is a massive moneymaker even in a bear case. I just took you through a case that Lisa Su might fire herself if it was that bad. And it's still a banger investment. It's still a banger investment. Even at a 20 PE ratio with tragically bad numbers. And it still would be a CAGR of 20+%. Now you can see why I've been buying AMD left and right recently. Let me take you through my base case for AMD. Base case for AMD, I have them growing revenue 20% per year on average, 2026 to 2029, right? I have them growing net income at a faster clip than that. Remember, they're going to get, in my opinion, a lot of lift on that net margin over the coming years, okay? So I had that net margin going to about 32% come 2029 from the, we can call it the 20% range, right? 30% net income on average, right? Now, on a company that's growing 20% top line, 30% bottom line, a 25 to 35 P is like pretty dang dirt cheap, to be honest with you guys. Like pretty dirt cheap. But from a base case, I'd rather still be a little conservative rather than a little wild, right? And man, they're going to blow these numbers out of the water. But I would rather be conservative on my base case. So where's the stock price? Well, next year in 2026, the stock price was somewhere between $150 and $210. Keep in mind the stock price today is $100 or around $100. Actually, technically a little under $100, right? 2027, somewhere between about, we can call it about $200 and about $270. 2028, $250 to about $350. In 2029, about $329 to $461, right? That's a conservative base case. My gosh, is AMD a moneymaker. Let's go bull case. You ready? You ready to have your flapjacks flipped? You ready for a holy smokers, this ain't no jokers? Let's do it. Already, bull case. And then doing 30% revenue growth on average, 2026 through 2029, right? Keep in mind, 2026 should be a crazy revenue growth year, by the way, like crazy, because you're talking about the first few quarters are going to have MI 350, and in the back half of the year, we'll have MI 400. Oh my gosh. With growth and embedded likely at that time in gaming and client. Okay, so 30% revenue growth for my bull case. And my net income, I have them doing 40% on average for that 4-year span there, right? Which gives us a 32% margin still, again, 2029, right? Now, 30% top line, 40% bottom line growth on average per year, you're easily commanding a PE ratio in the 30 to 45 range. Easily. Even in the semiconductor space, if you're growing that sort of growth rate per year, right? So that puts the stock price next year, 2026, somewhere around $200 to $300 a share. That puts the stock price in 2027 around $270 to about $400 a share. That puts the stock price in 2028 between about $380 and $570. And come 2029, $532 to $792, which gives me a compound annual growth rate of 50% on the low side, about 70% on the high end. It's very hard to make a case to not be buying AMD stock right now. Very hard. You don't have much to go off of because you look at the company and you think about the chips that are coming for this company, right? You think about the need for these chips and the infrastructure to continue to build out these big tech companies. And it's nearly impossible to say, like, it doesn't make sense to buy AMD. Like, AMD feels like it should be part of everybody's portfolio. Like, Lisa Su and AMD would just have to completely fail, like fall flat on their face over the next few years to not make a lot of money in the stock, right? And so the only question to me in AMD is how much money is there to be made over the next few years, right? And in my estimation, the risk reward here is unbelievable because the stock price is priced like, you know, they got nothing going on here. Look at the forward P. The forward P is what, 20? A little above 20? They're priced like they got nothing going on. And then you think about the companies, the numbers they're putting up right now, and it's like, do people not get like they're about to get to a whole new level of growth as this year ticks on, and then you go into next year? You know what next year's numbers are going to be? Oh my gosh. So this is just very early days, right? And remember, this isn't even, you know, we're talking so much about what's happening over the next year or 2 or 3 years. Remember, this is a next 10, 20-year play. These chips that AMD is producing and NVIDIA is producing, right? Like, the need for those chips is going to be even more and more and more and more and more, right? So it's just very hard to say, like, let's not buy AMD. Very, very difficult, right? No, you could say, well, what if I just buy NVIDIA? Here's the deal. Like, somebody could easily buy both NVIDIA and AMD and do a partner buy, right? Kind of like I did with Celsius and Monster earlier this year, and I've done it on some other stocks in the past, where I'll buy 2 stocks kind of in the same industry, just as, like, you know, I might go heavier in one than the other, right? Somebody could easily put, like, you know, $3 in AMD for every $1 they put in NVIDIA, or $2 in AMD for every $1 they put in NVIDIA, or something like that, or do half and half. Like, there's a lot of different options here, right? But to, you know, sit on your hands and not be interested in this stock is just, it's kind of crazy, man. It's kind of crazy. And so, you know, the futures are looking very good for both those companies long term, in my opinion, AMD and NVIDIA. I just think there's, based upon the numbers I'm running and projecting here, there's just a lot more money to be made in AMD than NVIDIA over the next few years, right? So, whoo, AMD, man. Like, well done, Lisa Su. Well done, team. And I can't wait to see, you know, where their numbers are at, even next quarter. Never mind later on this year, never mind next year. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, we're early days here. And so very, very exciting in regards to AMD to buy everything in sight. No, next up here, Celsius, for the people that want to know my opinion on those Celsius earnings this morning, right? Listen, I'm making a fortune on Celsius. In the public account, we're already at $45,000 on Celsius. And it's not like it's that old of an investment. This investment's only, what, a few months old now at this point in time? So we are absolutely crushing it in regards to Celsius. And congratulations to all Celsius shareholders out there. Wow. Like, gains on gains on gains on gains. But let me be very clear. We've got a long runway of gains ahead of us here. And it's going to be very exciting. So here, this is inside the Private Stock Group's Discord chat. I posted this, right? Once again, if you're looking to apply, join the Private Stock Group, get access to all the course curriculums, Discord chat, pinned comment down there on this video here today. It's also linked in the description area. You can click on that, fill out a form. But I put this in the private group's Discord chat, right? I try to keep everybody up to date on all the different earnings that are going on out there, right? I said, alrighty, here's my take on Celsius this quarter. I said, one, this past quarter, not impressive whatsoever, right? Which no one was expecting this quarter to be, you know, people are looking at it and like, this quarter wasn't good. Why is the stock up 5%, right? No one cares about this quarter they just reported. No one. And no one thought this was going to be some great quarter. I said, two, sounds like the core business is about to get back to growth, which is great news. Based upon what I'm seeing the management talk about, based upon what I'm seeing in the numbers, it looks like that core business of Celsius is going to get back to growth. It's just a question of, is it this next quarter they're about to report or the following quarter? That's really the only question. Is it in the next quarter or the second quarter up here, okay? So that's phenomenal. Third thing is growth rates are going to skyrocket moving forward now that the Alani deal is done, right? So now all these future quarters are going to have the Alani numbers in there. So you're going to see growth rates skyrocket. And then if we're talking about the core business also simultaneously gets back to growth, dude, the numbers are about to go ridiculous for Celsius, like ridiculous. 4, profitability should start to skyrocket at the end of this year. No question in my mind, as you know, now that Alani deal is going to be behind the company, starting the back half of this year, we're going to look at, in my opinion, profitability that starts to skyrocket for the company. 5, international business is growing rapidly and it's very early days in regards to international expansion, right? And if you think about Celsius and Alani long term, like the biggest segment of their business should be international long term, right? It's not going to be this year. But if you think about 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that, like the international business should be far bigger than what the business is today, right? In terms of the domestic business. So bullish overall, like really good in regards to Celsius here, right? Additionally, I'm not sure if you guys follow me on X. That's always linked in the description area if you want to follow me on X and see all the posts I'm making in there. But I posted this on my X today. I said, Celsius will take off like a rocket ship this next 12 months. My 12-month price target on the stock is between $70 and $100. I asked everybody, does that seem about right? And you guys can always read through the comments there and, you know, see what people's perspectives are, you know, in regards to Celsius. But, you know, I think the stock's set up for just a magical next 12 months. As people see the numbers, as people start to see the core business get back to growth, the international business in those numbers, and then the Alani business start to come through, I think people are going to get very, very excited about this business again. And then you got to understand, this year is really just all about revenue growth, right? Between the Alani deal coming through, getting the core business back. 2026, you know what that's going to be about? Margins and earnings per share. And so you got to understand this is going to be a very exciting next really couple years in regards to Celsius, because we're going to go from the focus is all on revenue and getting the revenues skyrocketing back up again for Celsius, to then we go into next year and it's going to be about look at the margins, look at the earnings per share, and look at how fast those are accelerating. They're growing much faster than revenues. That's what we're going to be talking about at that particular time. So Celsius, man, I love this one, and this one sets up phenomenal, really regardless of how the market does. You know, like Celsius is going to run its own race for the next year or two. You know, the market can go up, down, all around. Celsius is going to be running its own race now at this point in time. The story is too special to even, you know, the market to even matter much in regards to that one, okay? That leads me to my next subject here. Earnings season. You know, now I would say we're about 60, 70% through earnings season, right? Listen, man, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. The reason I got Mr. Myers there is this was supposed to be such a scary earnings season. So much fear going into this earnings season is ridiculous, right? We were looking at a fear and greed index just a few weeks ago that was down at Rona levels. Oh my gosh, so scary. And here we are. We're getting all these company earnings, and the companies that are not really top tier companies aren't reporting that great of numbers. But you're looking at the companies that I really care about reporting great numbers and having great guidance and great conference calls. Companies like Meta, companies like Amazon, companies like AMD, right? They're coming through. They're putting up their numbers, and they're having great guidances. And, you know, this was supposed to be so scary. You know, oh, the Trump tariffs, you know, no one's recession, no one's going to buy anything anymore, blah, blah, blah. Really? It's not what I'm seeing in the numbers. Numbers are great. From all the companies that really matter the most, numbers are great. Like the only really big, huge, giant company I could think of in terms of market capitalization that had bad numbers was Tesla. Outside of them, who you got? Apple, even Apple. Apple's got nothing exciting in their business model right now. Not one product is exciting or hyped at Apple. Look at their numbers. Still really, really impressive. Revenue, earnings per share. This was supposed to be so scary. It was supposed to be a horror movie, right? And I'm out here saying, if this was a scary movie, it didn't turn out very scary, right? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And here we are. We're already, 60% through. And honestly, we're already like 95% through all the super important companies that really shake the market up. The only one we got left is nvidia. And you know what nvidia is going to do? I'll tell you exactly what nvidia is going to do. Smash their numbers, and they're going to have a crazy guide. How do I know that? Well, I just listened to all the biggest tech companies in the world say they're going to spend at least as much as they thought they were going to spend, if not more. Doesn't take a genius to figure out nvidia is going to come through with great numbers. I just watched Jensen today on CNBC. He looked as confident as ever. So what do you got? What do you got? Not much, right? Now, I also want to share with you guys a couple things I posted in the breadcrumbs tab inside the private stock group because I thought that was relevant, right? Always trying to post different stuff in there. Sometimes stock market related, sometimes a little more like, just kind of money related in general. I said, there's two realistic ways to get rich or wealthy in this world, right? Financially. I said, one, make a crap ton of money and save it, right? Work super high up at a company, start your own business, make bank, something like that. Or get great investment returns over a 10, 20, 30 year span. List ends there. To have super rich parents and inherit a bunch of money or marry Jeff Bezos, not so realistic. Remember that, right? That's only two ways. The other ways, not so realistic. So if you want to talk about the folks that actually get rich, wealthy, and are self-made, right? That's how they do it. That's how they do it, man. And so, you got to figure out where are you going to put your time and, where are you going to allocate time? Are you going to allocate time toward, if you have a very special ability to make a crap ton of money because you own your own business or you're working, at executive level at a company or you're working at that level, you got to put in the time toward that because that's a great opportunity for you. If it's more like, hey man, I don't have the potential to necessarily make $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, but I have a lot of ability to make $100,000 a year and get really good investment returns over time because you know everything to look for in stocks, you have the risk appetite, things like that, then you really need to focus a lot of your time and attention toward those investment returns, right? And make your 100K a year or 80K a year or whatever, and that's fine. And just focus on your investment returns, right? Additionally, I posted this, I said, my personal view on the good for life number, right? Because that's always was a debated thing, like what's the number that's like you're good for life, right? I said, in the US, it's $5 million plus now invested, in my opinion, right? I said, nowadays becoming a millionaire does not mean you're good for life with how expensive everything is. Like you're not going far on $1 million nowadays. Not in the United States of America. Maybe in India, maybe that's a different situation, right? Pakistan, okay. In America, you're not going far on $1 million nowadays. I said 50 years ago, getting $1 million meant you were good for life. Aim for $5 million invested long term. This is what everybody needs to be aiming for, when it comes to financial. You got to aim for that $5 million plus number, right? I said this is kind of how I would grade it, kind of my little pyramid here. If you have under $100,000 invested, you're just getting started. You're just getting started. If you got $100,000 to $500,000 invested, you're off to a good start. Good start. $500,000 to $1 million, you're doing well for yourself. Like we'll give you a golf clap, right? $1 million to $5 million, you're rolling, you're working towards something. 5 million plus, now you're good for life. So you got to really frame it from that perspective and don't get too hyped because you're at $80,000 invested. Like cool, but you're still just getting started, right? You got a long way to go here. Alrighty guys, appreciate you joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. If you're looking to become a much better investor than what you are today, pin comment down there, click on that, fill out a form, see if you can access my private stock group, private wealth group, get all those course curriculums downloaded to your brain, private Discord chat, all that good stuff. Much love and have a great day.